This is the episode where Simon gets his breakthrough. Not just his debt getting paid, but moving from fear to faith. But this line right here,
faith isn't gonna get me more fish.
Faith for fish, it's very telling where he's at. This is one of my favorite episodes of season 1. What do you think of it? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my spoiler talk review for The Chosen Season 1, Episode 4, The Rock on Which It's Built, which I think is a very good title for this episode, even though this is not the episode where Jesus changes Simon's name to Peter, which means rock. But that title is very foreshadowing of Simon's destiny and who he's going to become, and this is the episode where that kick starts. And I just love how Jesus comes into Simon's life at this darkest point and brings that light, and not just takes care of his debt, but brings him from that place of fear and anxiety that he's at to this new place of faith. It's just another place where we see Jesus pursuing and redemption, just like we saw at the end of episode 1. So what did you think of this episode? Let's talk about it. Now, episodes 1 and 2 have done a fantastic job establishing where Simon is at. I mean, come on, episode 1 opens with him in this, MMA fight with his two brother-in-laws, and he has Andrew, his brother, gambling on him. I mean, already it's establishing what Jesus says, or what he says to Jesus in Luke 5:8.
Depart from me. I am a sinful man.
Now, I love how they fill in the backstory with the gambling and the fighting and all of that. I think that's really interesting. But I think the point of this episode is it runs a little bit deeper than just the gambling and the fighting and these other things that Simon's trying to do to take control. Because he's stuck. But this episode is about why he's stuck and how he gets unstuck.
Because you have not pursued the Lord lately. That is why you are stuck and you feel desperate, and now you're off to try to fix it yourself again.
Other things have begun to creep into his heart, and they've began to strangle his faith just little by little. And I think that's what this episode's about. So I like that it's going a little bit deeper than just the fact that he's gambling. Why is he gambling? Because he's not trusting God, because he's trying to take control of the situation himself. And no matter how much he tries to take control, it's kind of like he's just spinning his wheels and he just gets in the hole deeper and deeper. So this episode is interesting because it actually opens in darkness, literally because it opens at nighttime. But in darkness because this is really the darkest part of Simon's journey before he meets Jesus and he himself is redeemed and brought from that foundation of fear back to a foundation of faith. If you remember where episode 2 ended, it ended with him getting up in the middle of Shabbat meal, not just to go work on Shabbat, the day he should be resting, but to work with the Romans to hand over Jewish merchants who are fishing on Shabbat. Several no-nos there. If you remember, again, Shabbat is about rest, honoring God, honoring family, and honoring God's people. And what is Simon doing?
And fishing on holy days without even thinking about it, with no respect for our God.
He's not trusting God, so he's getting up to work. He's working with the Romans to hand over his fellow Jewish people, and he's not honoring his family by getting up and leaving them to go do this deed. So we really see what a dark place he is in, and it opens with him on the boat. Now, the show does a great job having you feel Simon's stress and having you feel stuck and desperate the way he feels stuck and desperate. And they do this without villainizing him, especially in this scene, because he gets to the bobber. Now, this should be it, right? This should be the moment where he is the utmost excited, because in moments he's going to turn over these fishermen. His debts will be completely forgiven, and he's going to have a complete clean slate. Instead, he picks up the bobber and it says Z. Zebedee's sons, Zebedee's crew, and his conscience gets the better of him. And we see him, even though he's in such a difficult position and he is stressed to the max, he double crosses the Romans. And that is a very powerful moment because, like I said, we are not to villainize Simon, but we are to sympathize, to empathize with him and understand where he's at, bringing us into the humanity of his character. So I thought that was well done. And once he double crosses Rome, well, now he's got to figure a next plan. So we really see him grasping at straws, doing whatever he can to handle this on his own. So here he is in the bar talking to Zebedee and his sons, and he throws up this plan.
I want you to turn over your catch. To me. Then you stay off the sea on Shabbat. For a while, anyway. After that, Quintus, the problem is solved.
And they ain't biting. Like all the fish the nights before, they aren't biting. It seems no matter where Simon cast his net, he can't seem to get a catch anywhere. And it goes from bad to worse because he goes home to find that his mother-in-law is sick and his two brother-in-laws have brought her home to live with him in Eden.
No.
Where he's at this point in his life, he's in that really dark space. And in that really dark space where he's about to lose everything, he's got another mouth to feed. I'm sure they're going to have to call a doctor and they're going to have doctor bills. So as if his debt isn't big enough already, it's about to get bigger. And so the stress is on even more. And so here he is trying to explain to Eden why we can't take your mother at this time. And he finally comes clean to her about all the trouble that he's in.
I looked you in the eyes and I told you, I've got this. I lied.
Now, I love the husband and wife dynamic between Simon and Eden, but I'm just going to cut to the heart of this conversation and what I absolutely love about it. What you really see in this whole conversation is Simon is operating out of anxiety and fear. And yeah, with the circumstances in life, he's got reason to act that way, but you see him acting out of it. But Eden also has reason to act out of anxiety and fear. I mean, her mother is sick. She just found out from her husband, who finally told her all these secrets that he's been keeping and unloaded on her all this trouble that they're in. So imagine all that she could be feeling right here and right now. But listen to her responses.
You have had your eyes closed around here, and God is with me, even if you aren't.
She's operating from a place of faith, even in a very difficult position. So clearly in this scene, we have a picture of Simon with his house built on the sand, which is not a firm foundation. The storm is here and his foundation is crumbling, his house is falling. But we also have this picture of Eden. The storm is here, but she's operating out of faith, so her feet are on the rock. So even though the storm is here, we get to see her strength. And I love seeing her strength in this scene. And one of my favorite moments is where she asks Simon, "Where's your faith?"
Where is your faith?
What?
It's very powerful because the way she talks in this scene, she talks about a time where it's like he was pursuing the Lord more.
Lives are at
You
stake
don't
here.
know that because you have not pursued the Lord lately. Not like the man that I married.
And it's just further confirmation of the fact that little things kept creeping in. Little worldly things that didn't look bad, that probably looked really good and enticing, and they came in not suddenly, but little by little. Kind of like that analogy of the frog in the pot. If you just turn it on super hot, the frog's going to jump out. But if you turn up the heat slowly, the frog won't notice until it boils. It's like that's what's going on in Simon's heart. These weeds have been growing and slowly but surely strangling his faith.
Before it was gambling, and now it's working and trying to do everything yourself. The popular Simon, fixing everything and charming everyone all by yourself.
And it's a very good cautionary tale to remind us of Matthew 6:33. Seek God and his righteousness above everything else. And like I said in the beginning, this line is very telling.
And faith isn't gonna get me more fish.
He really isn't seeking God first. And what I love, again, it's the strength of Eden in this scene, because you see her love and support of Simon.
I know. And I'm glad you're at least honest with me.
But you also see where she's firm.
But no more talking. Maybe God can get your attention now.
And what's great about that is right there where she says, maybe God could get your attention now. We cut to Simon walking out the door, and he's angry. I get it, man. I understand why he'd be angry and frustrated. At this point, he thinks he has a week to catch all the fish he needs to catch, to pay off all of his debt, and now also take care of his mother-in-law. The stress is on, and suddenly Andrew comes running up and panting. He has seen the Messiah.
Who did you see?
The Lamb of God.
Now think about this. This is actually the answer to everything that Simon's been going through. I mean, Andrew himself says that.
You're scared.
Lost everything.
It doesn't matter. The Romans don't matter if the Messiah has arrived. Anything is possible now.
You know what's funny, though, is sometimes we pray, and God sends the answer. And when the answer doesn't look like how we thought it should look or expected it to look, how we imagined it was going to look, it's funny how quickly we can get so cynical towards it when it shows up because we don't recognize it.
Was he a big man?
Big? No.
Rich? No. So it didn't seem he could bail us out of this debt to Rome? Maybe he was a doctor.
And so he dismisses Andrew in this scene. And what I find really interesting about his dismissal of Andrew in this scene is we see God pursuing Simon. You go back to episode 1, you have that excellent picture of God pursuing Mary Magdalene, bringing light to her darkness and redeeming her. I love how with Simon, this picture repeats. Here with Andrew, the answers to his prayers come running, out of breath, excited to be there for him. And he dismisses it because it doesn't look like how he thought it was going to look. As he's walking away, he runs into Matthew, who very politely informs him, you don't have a week. If you don't either pay your debt or turn in the fishermen, you're under arrest by morning. So now he's got to go back out on the water and has only one night, not a week, to catch all the fish necessary to pay his debts in full, to take care of his wife, his brother, his business, and his mother-in-law. Can you imagine how much this is piling up on him? So he goes out into the water. And what I love is I came across this video by Rabbi Jason Sobel. Now, if you don't know who that is, he's a Messianic Jewish rabbi, and The Chosen, they do send him the scripts, and he makes notes on the scripts. And he's a very cool dude. He's got a very interesting perspective on things, and I love this video that he did about overcoming fear with faith. And he was talking about this particular scene where you have Simon in the boat, and cast after cast, he is catching no fish. And so what Rabbi Jason Sobel basically sums up in this video is he says the fact that Simon is out there at night, it's very symbolic.
That means he's fishing in his own strength, according to his own plans, according to his own purposes, because he doesn't yet have the light of Jesus in his life.
Instead of operating out of that place of faith and trusting God for the best, he's operating out of that place of fear and anxiety, and he's actually expecting the worst.
When you fish from a place of anxiety, your nets are always going to remain empty.
You're scared.
Lost everything.
And it's amazing how through fear and anxiety, the enemy wants to get in and rob us of our destiny. Now, isn't that interesting? Because Simon, right now, is on the eve of his destiny. And you can just sort of sense this spiritual battle that is taking place to try to rob him of his destiny. And you see that he is so desperately clinging on to what he understands, because it's the only way that he could see to possibly save himself. And something else Rabbi Jason Sobel said, one of the ways that fear and anxiety get in is because the enemy could be lying to us and we're agreeing with those lies. So I'm going to put this question to you. Based on episodes 1 and 2 and what we've seen in this episode, what lies do you think Simon is agreeing with? That here he is out on this boat so fearful and anxious. Let's talk about that in the comments. I think that would be an incredibly interesting conversation, and I look forward to hearing from you about that. But here he is out here. So what we got to do is counter the lies with the truth. So here's Simon in the boat, incredibly frustrated. And I've said many times, this part where he prays, and he's just so angry. Like, I can relate to that. I mean, I've had prayers like that where I'm waiting for God's answer. I don't see what's coming, and I could get frustrated and I could get scared. And sometimes out of that, you have those frustrated prayers. And I think what you again see is the patience of God and how God is continuing to pursue him. Because you got to think, Eden's words are still ringing in his ears.
Maybe God can get your attention now.
And maybe that's what he wants, but he's trying to get it on his own terms. Now listen to kind of the subject of his prayers.
Only to let Egypt enslave us for generations. bring us out of Egypt, only to let us wander in the desert for 40 years, give us the land, only to let us be exiled in Babylon, bring us back, only to be crushed by Rome.
He's constantly rehearsing oppression. How his people were redeemed from one nation, then oppressed by another, and he's rehearsing that because of how oppressed he is right now. I mean, when the sun rises, he loses his freedom. He's going to jail. His life as he knows it is over. And he's fighting for it on his own terms and his own way, and it's not working. Cast after cast, even when Zebedee and Andrew and John and James show up, just cast after cast, no fish. So finally the dawn comes, and it's just that moment of surrender. He is at the end of himself. He can't do it anymore. This is another picture of God pursuing him, because I never thought of this till this last time I watched it, but think about how early in the morning it is. The sun just rose. And Jesus is standing here on this shore teaching, and there's a crowd of people actually sitting there and listening. That's no coincidence at all. Jesus is there, perfectly timed, because he is pursuing Simon. Now, this was kind of a scary moment, because as Jesus is asking, can I get in the boat with you? Can I use your boat? And Simon is saying, no, I don't got time for this.
I need to go. I'm sorry. No time for this today.
Thankfully, we have Andrew interceding, saying, yes, master, please get in the boat. And Jesus pursuing, saying, hey,
Stay a few moments longer. I have something for you.
And so it becomes this powerful moment where Simon lets Jesus in the boat.
Put that down for a catch.
I don't have a quarrel with you, teacher. We've been doing this all night. Nothing.
I love that exhaustion in Simon's voice. So you really hear the surrender. You really hear the exhaustion. You really hear it in his voice. And I do love the looks between Simon and Jesus where he just tosses the net in. But it's that act of obedience. He couldn't see it anymore, but it's like he's given up. Fine. What's the worst that could happen? And he listens to Jesus and he tosses the net in the water. Now, in complete contrast to him before, fishing in the night, in the dark, in his own way, in his own strength, here he is fishing in the daylight, doing exactly what Jesus told him to do. Now, what's so great about this scene is the music. It's so victorious. It makes you want to move and dance and just, yes! I mean, it's so good because seriously, you've been through a lot of darkness with Simon. We've been through a lot of darkness with him in this episode. And now this is that moment of victory where there are so many fish. Simon and Andrew can't even handle it by themselves. One boat can't even hold all of the fish. So here you have Zebedee and his sons, Simon and Andrew. They're struggling because there are so many fish. And it's over. The crushing debt is over. The weight of not being able to take care of his wife and his mother-in-law, it's over. He had more than enough. It is this moment of tremendous victory. What I love about it, though, is what Jesus did for Simon didn't just take care of this one need that he had. It cut straight to the heart.
You don't know who I am and the things I've done.
Don't be afraid, Simon.
And I love what Simon says here about his faith.
I'm sorry. We've waited for you for so long, we believe. But my faith, I'm sorry.
Jesus answering this prayer got straight to the heart of the matter, and it was his redemption. Just like with Mary, where he just touched Mary's head and said, "You are mine," and the demons had to flee, and his light took over that darkness, and she was set free. It's the same thing here. He is brought back to that solid foundation of faith. And one of the things I love about Jesus in this moment is that absolute compassion. I mean, he had every right to say to Simon, "I told you so," or to scold him, or to lecture him, or whatever. And instead, he just said,
Lift up your head, fisherman. Follow me.
and he treats Simon with the utmost compassion and mercy. And so I love this scene, and I love this moment. And not only do we get Simon's redemption here, but Jesus actually says, dude, here's your destiny.
From now on, I will make you fishers of men. And you are to gather as many as possible, all kinds.
Now, here's something really cool, and I just saw this the last time I watched it. So Simon's going to be a fisher of men. You know who the first fish is? It's Matthew. See, one of the things this episode does is it lifts the curtain. and we kind of see behind the scenes how God is pursuing all of our main characters here. We saw it pretty clearly with Mary in episode 1. We see it pretty clearly in this episode. But now we see how from episode 1 through here, God had been maneuvering and positioning Matthew so that he'd be right here on the beach to witness this miracle. And we all have seen how Matthew has built this box around his world.
Anything's possible.
Not mathematically.
And everything has to fit in this box. Everything has to be super logical.
Variables. People are always adding variables.
And now that box is cracked because Matthew just saw the impossible.
It's amazing.
It's impossible.
And now we have that call on Matthew's life. It actually reminds me of the silver chair from C.S. Lewis, the fourth in the Chronicles of Narnia, because Jill is saying, excuse me, Aslan, we called on your name. You didn't call us. Eustace told me to say this name over and over again until we found ourselves here. And that's what happened. And Aslan just simply responded, child, you would never have been calling out to me unless I had first been calling out to you. And so we see that. We see that call and how God is calling out. Matthew is searching because God is calling Matthew. We are being called and God is pursuing us. One of the things I love about this episode is this is my second time reviewing it. The first time I reviewed it, I related to Simon and the fish, because doing YouTube, sometimes it just feels like you're casting the net over and over and getting nothing. But what's amazing is how much has changed between the first time I reviewed this episode and now. The first time I reviewed The Chosen, I almost didn't do it. It's kind of scary, right?
I need to go. I'm sorry. No time for this today.
I have something for you.
I mean, if you look at my background, it's comic book stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, no, that's my brand. So to talk about The Chosen, I don't think that fit what I do, but something inside said, just do it. You like the show, talk about the show that you like.
Put that down for a catch.
And that was the review that changed my life.
I want you to meet them. So here is Chris and Chris giving you a little bit of what happened when we decided to let them have the reins of the behind the scenes of The Chosen.
I'm Chris.
I tell that story to be an encouragement and as a continuation of the last time I reviewed this episode and how I related to it. Because it's amazing how God is always working in the background in ways that maybe we don't see or understand yet. And I didn't seek this opportunity. It came from me. That's the picture of God pursuing you and I. And I just want you to be encouraged that just as God is pursuing each of the characters as you watch those first 4 episodes of The Chosen and positioning them to be in the right place at the right time, I just want you to be encouraged to know that wherever you are in life, God is pursuing you. So what did you think of this 4th episode of The Chosen? It's definitely one of my favorites of the season. So I want to hear from you, your thoughts on it in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian and hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I got more Chosen reviews coming, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.